The sudden disappearance of the Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 on March 7th led to different conclusions on the causes of the accident. Aviation experts, however, agreed that whatever happened was quick and left the pilots no time to issue a distress call. The main indicator of what happened will be the size of the debris field. If it is large and spread out over tens of miles, the plane likely broke apart at a high elevation. This would indicate the breakup was the result of a bomb or a massive airframe failure. A smaller debris field would indicate that the plane was intact when it fell from altitude, breaking up on contact with the water, indicating engine failure, an attempted hijacking, or even pilot suicide. The recovery of the flight data and voice recorders could also help investigators understand the cause of the crash.
States and 9 other countries are involved in the search for Flight 370. Dozens of ships and aircraft are crisscrossing more than 10,000 square miles. Chip Reed is in Washington with a look at how they're trying to find the 777 jetliner. Chip, good morning.
Well, good morning, Charlie and Nora. As you just noted, the area being searched is huge and it is constantly expanding. As one American commander said, time is against us. Planes and helicopters are using sophisticated surface radar to scan the ocean for debris. But given the lack of information about the plane's final location, the teams are only making an educated guess. Commander William Marks is with the U.S. 7th Fleet in the South China Sea.
Time is not on our side, so anything we can do to expand this search will be the better if there's any survivors.
The waters between Malaysia and Vietnam are relatively shallow. In many places, if you stood the missing Boeing 777 on its nose, part of the tail would stick out of the water. But shallow water presents its own problems. Tides and currents are stronger, scattering debris more quickly. Shallow water can also confuse sonar, sound waves used to locate objects on the ocean floor.
I always like to think that we need to start by finding the haystack, and then we can look for the bits of the needle in that haystack. And in this case, the haystack is huge because we just don't have the clues.
Oceanographer David Gallo led the 2009 search for Air France Flight 447. That plane went down in deep water in a remote section of the Atlantic Ocean. Search teams located the wreckage within 5 days, but it took another 2 years to find the flight data recorders in an underwater mountain range. Gallo says even if the black boxes are recovered for the Malaysia Air flight, it could be years before investigators and the families of the passengers know exactly what happened.
We assume the plane has crashed, but, not a bit of evidence, not a mayday, nothing. It's almost like a murder mystery with no body.
If the plane cannot be found by searching the surface, crews will start using sonar to search under the water, and we are fast approaching the point where this search will change from rescue to recovery. Charlie and Nora?
All right, Chip Reed, fascinating. Thank you.
Even in our world of satellites and cell phones, giant airliners can disappear, at least for a while. The last was Air France Flight 447 in 2009. The Airbus 330 with 228 people aboard vanished beyond radar on a flight from Rio de Janeiro to Paris.
People who go on the planes want to know what happened.
It took search crews 5 days to find any debris and 2 years to locate the plane and its flight recorders on the ocean floor. Eventually, investigators determined mechanical failure and pilot error were to blame. Then there was Egypt Air Flight 990. It too went down mysteriously in 1999 on a flight from New York to Cairo, killing 217 people. Like the Malaysia airliner, Egypt Air 990 was less than an hour into its flight, cruising at altitude when it suddenly nosedived into the Atlantic with no distress call. Eventually, U.S. and Egyptian investigators came to 2 different conclusions. The NTSB said a co-pilot intentionally crashed the plane. The Egyptians cited mechanical failure. Even when there are witnesses to a plane crash, there can be mystery and controversy. And TWA 800 is proof of that. Upwards of 1,500 people say they saw some kind of fire trail in the sky July 17, 1996, leading to speculation it was a missile and terrorism that brought down the 747, killing 230 people. Former ABC correspondent Pierre Salinger fed the flames of conspiracy, incorrectly claiming it was a U.S. Navy ship that shot the plane down. It was painstaking work by investigators who concluded an explosion in the plane's center fuel tank was the real culprit. In some airline mysteries, it's not how the plane went down that grips the public, but how passengers survive. Such was the case of Flight 571. In 1972, the charter plane crashed in the Andes Mountains. Of the 45 passengers on board, only 16 would live to tell about it. The tragedy was made famous in the 1993 film Alive, depicting survivors eating the dead to stay alive the 72 days it took for rescue.